Hello everybody and welcome to Republic of Play News for the 12th of April 2018. For the uninitiated, Republic of Play News is a weekly news show every Thursday here on youtube.com/Republic of Play, where we go through the latest gaming news orientated around the PC ecosphere, but a little bit of the wider gaming industry as well. Without further delay, let's get into it. Roll the intro. Alright, let's lead off with our first topic of the show, which is always the most noteworthy releases in the past week. So the one that came to mind was Extinction. This game I'd been following just a little bit maybe for the last couple of weeks. It looked quite cool. It kind of looked like a God of War-esque style game where you're taking down these giant monsters. Unfortunately, the game is absolutely tanking and bombing on Steam hard. It's got mostly negative reviews, 29%. Obviously there's only 17 reviews though. And as well as that, the game costs $54.99 for the regular edition. For those who don't know British pounds sterling, games are normally $39.99. That's your $60 equivalent. So this game is almost double the price of a normal game. It's tanking hard. Most people in the reviews are basically just saying that the gameplay loop is extremely repetitive, and people are saying it's not worth the money. So the game is tanking hard. I guess you could say Iron Galaxy might go extinct. Not that that's nice, I'd hate for that to happen, but these guys made Killer Instinct 2, or Killer Instinct. There was no reason to expect that this game wouldn't do well. It looked professional, looked well polished, but unfortunately it just seems to be priced extremely high and doesn't seem that good. So that's a bit of a shame. Maybe avoid at all costs. Alright, the next game that kind of came out of nowhere is a game called Radical Heights. You might have heard about this. This is a early access battle royale game from the guys that made Lawbreakers. Yeah, Lawbreakers. I don't know. So basically, I haven't checked out this game too much. I watched a couple streams of it. I haven't played it myself, but I do play battle royale games, and what this game seems to be is kind of like, it's more like Fortnite but with an 80s theme to it. And I mean, that's kind of basically it from what I can gather. It's kind of a cartoonish, arcadey style battle royale shooter. So if you want another one, there you go. It's free to play. But interestingly, it ties into our first story, which is the fact that the Lawbreakers developer Boss Key Productions was working on this game after Lawbreakers. They acknowledged that Lawbreakers had failed, but it won't abandon Lawbreakers, and now they're moving on to this. This is written by Andy Chalk over on PCGamer.com. Just give him a shout out. And then just one of the quotes I thought was worth mentioning is, "We will continue to support Lawbreakers in its current state, but we also need to focus on other projects with fresh creative leaders." Interesting to note on that, it says fresh creative leaders, and they kind of mentioned it here in this article as well. Andy Chalk does. It just seems like I haven't seen anything from Cliff Bleszinski about this game. He's retweeting a lot of stuff about it. He says it's quite cool, but I don't think he's the lead designer like he was for kind of Lawbreakers. You know, he's not the front man pushing the game, and that might be a response to how people negatively reacted to him, saying, "Well, I'm just going to make another billion-dollar franchise." And you know, it's nice to come in with a bit of bravado and stuff, but obviously when it blows up in your face and it doesn't work, then maybe they're like, you know what, just sit this one out, and we just need to make some money right now. It seems like they're not being published by Nexon either anymore. This is just a completely self-published, self-developed game. They say they're in complete control of it. And having watched the footage of it, which we can check out here while I talk about it, having watched the footage of it and watched it being played, it seems like it's extremely early access at the moment. There's buildings without textures. There's animations that aren't there yet. When you're trying to like do a roll or a jump, it's just not fluid in terms of like how it looks and how it's kind of playing a little bit. It seems very laggy as well, but it seems to have been relatively successful. However, it is mixed on Steam right now, but it's got a decent player base at it. And it does some things different. You collect cash, you use that cash to get your guns, and it's got some interesting kind of things going on, but largely, in my opinion, it's not different enough to Fortnite or PUBG to really make me want to care about it. I'd kind of want one that goes in the other direction. Well, that doesn't really matter. I'd like one to be more realistic, basically, but whatever. That's just me. Alright, let's move on to the next story, and that is, it's a follow-up from last week. It's just a kind of, someone followed up on Reddit about this, reddit/r/games. Basically, the Eugen system strike is now over. We covered this in our last Republic of Play news last week, and that was basically that about half the studio of Eugen was striking over unfair, well, what they were calling unfair pay conditions, you know, not being paid for overtime, or basically working longer than what minimum wage would, working longer and getting paid less than what minimum wage would deem for the amount of hours that they were doing. Now, interestingly, I'll just read this out. In a statement relayed yesterday by the Video Game Workers Union in French, employees of Eugen Systems have confirmed that the strike started 7 weeks earlier and ended on Tuesday, the 3rd of April. An exceptional situation that has not been found satisfactory solution that has not found a satisfactory solution in the eyes of the employees concerned, who have essentially found themselves forced to surrender for obvious financial reasons. As a reminder, they were 21 out of the 44 employees of the studio to strike on February 14th, according to a statement of the management of the Paris studio. So they're basically striking for almost about 2 months, and they just couldn't financially keep it going any longer, and they gave in. For context, the strikers detailed in the nature of their demands that they wanted conventional minima, classifications, holiday bonuses, compliance with the laws on working time, and management of overtime. They say, although the strike is over, the conflict is not. So we might... I mean, that is a very uncomfortable situation to be in. The fact that they were striking for 7 weeks, stopped, because they have to, and now they're just working there. Can you imagine what kind of work is going to be getting done? Extremely frustrated employees over there. Hopefully things get sorted out, but it seems like management weren't willing to budge when we talked about this last week, and I don't know. Unfortunately, we just don't know any more than that, but that is a very uncomfortable situation over there. I'd love to know more of what's going on behind closed doors, and really what is the situation with, like, what do they... I feel like they should just be able to publish what's actually going on and then make a case for it. But they said they were going to take them to labor court. I don't know if that's still happening or not, but we'll follow it up if we get any more information. All right, the next story is DayZ is to receive a kind of a reboot with major changes to, in its engine coming soon. So it's getting a new engine, basically. And then they've updated the stories to say reboot is probably not the correct word. So Bohemia PR manager, so this is written by Andy Chalk again, over on PCGamer.com. We've got a lot of PC Gamer articles today. The studio has been reworking the technology for the past 4 years. This is part of the update to the article they added. So the studio has been reworking the technology for the past 4 years. It's basically the reason why we're in early access for so long. Bohemia started the development of the new Infusion engine along with DayZ Standalone, an engine that's meant to empower our future games. So Bohemia obviously make the Arma franchise. You're probably looking at the engine that's meant for Arma 4. And DayZ came out in 2013, so it's been quite a long time coming. Anyway, so it's definitely a huge milestone for the game itself, as big as almost having completely new engine can be, but relaunch is perhaps not the correct word. The road from beta to 1.0 will mostly be about polishing those changes that he was talking about, balancing everything and doing additional smaller content drops. So essentially, from what I can gather and from my knowledge of game development, my guess is that they've made this their updated engine. They're probably porting everything they can over from DayZ into this new engine, because it's obviously an evolution of the Arma engine anyway, I would assume. And that's going to basically make the game run a lot smoother and stuff, but he's kind of like saying it's not a complete relaunch. It seems like a very small amount of people work on this DayZ standalone game, and most of Bohemia probably just continue working on Arma. Well, that just seems the way it is from the outside, I guess, because I used to play DayZ, used to follow it quite a lot, and it just seems like that is not making progress at a normal rate of a AAA or even a half of a AAA studio working on a game regularly. And it seems to have very bad direction, in my opinion. But it's getting a new engine, it's going to have a new life for a little while. I might come back into it and see how it's progressed over these years. This is actually one of the first early access games ever. I think it was in the first round of early access along with Prison Architect, and we're seeing a few of those games come out of early access now. So I'll be keeping I used to play DayZ like an absolute ton. I love DayZ. It's just it's incredibly mismanaged and made a ton of money, and they never put it back into the game, so I stopped playing the game. And it's unbelievable that they're able to get away with being in early access for 5 years after they made so much money. So there's no excuse. But anyway, that's the problem with early access. You're not you get a bunch of money. Companies aren't really structured in order to be like, oh, let's reinvest that back in the game. Companies don't really work that way. When a company makes a bunch of money from a product, they say that was a great project. Let's make a new budget for the next project and see how it goes. So I think these early access models is why I'm so cautious of early access, is because when you give a developer money up front for something that's not finished, they don't have too much incentive to continue that product unless they plan on monetizing it later or in different ways. Great developers have shown though that you get a massive push when you hit your 1.0 launch, and if you can do it and if you can keep regular updates and regular content, you'll do really well. You know, developers like the Prison Architect guys, Clay that make Oxygen Not Included and Don't Starve, these people when they release their game, it comes out and boom, they just hit a huge influx of players that are like, oh, I was waiting, now it's hit 1.0, I've heard great things and I'm jumping in. But some developers, I guess, just take the money, don't staff up, and just let the guys work on the project for a while. We'll see how that plays out for them. The thing is with DayZ, they've made their money. That's the thing. All right, next story anyway. The next one is, speaking of early access games and games that are coming out of early access, that is The Forest will be leaving 4 years of early access on April 30th. Again, PC Gamer, written by Samuel Horty. There will be new items and a price increase. So I thought it was worth mentioning that, similar to our Factorio story last week, that Factorio, which is also coming out of our early access in the next couple of months, that will be getting a price increase pretty soon, I think on April 26th. Similarly, The Forest is going to get a price increase, but it's a much smaller one. It's about 25%. It's going up from $14 or $15 to $20. I've never got The Forest. It looks really cool. It's got extremely high reviews, but I'm probably going to buy it and then just dive in when 1.0 hits. So if you want to save $5, get it now, and then you can get it when the 1.0 hits. For those who don't know, my annotations aren't popping up here actually, but the premise of The Forest is you're a lone survivor of a plane crash, trapped on an island full of man-eating mutants. You chop down trees for wood, catch fish for food, build shelters. It came out in that time when survival games were just the shit, along with DayZ. Alright, so that's The Forest. The next story, boom. GTA 5, little known game that you might have heard of, is estimated to be the most profitable entertainment product of all time, written by Joe Donnelly over on PCGamer.com. With an estimated 90 million copies sold across all platforms, PS3, Xbox 360, PS4, Xbox One, and PC, GTA 5 is thought to have accrued somewhere in the vicinity of $6 billion since launch in 2013. Aside from that, there's never been a console game that sold so many units, aside from something like Mario Bros. For perspective, Avatar is the highest grossing movie of all time, having made $2.78 billion. So GTA 5 is absolutely killing it, obviously, and it's extended by its online ecosystem, and you know, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people seem to, like, I never really played anymore, but there's a huge crowd of people that play it on YouTube, and there's massive YouTubers all have built their channels around this game, and there's a big online community for playing online into it. I just personally never really got into it. I loved the single player story, and then I moved on, like as I do with most GTA games. So yeah, it should be interesting to see how this kind of plays out when Rockstar are thinking of Red Dead. You know, can Red Dead ever catch up to something like a GTA? What I did find most interesting, why I wanted to talk about this article just briefly, was some studios, this kind of game shows that when you put a huge investment into a game, you can get a huge amount back out of it. You know, GTA and Rockstar, they go away for 5 years, and then they come back with a game, everybody pays attention, and everybody gets it. You know, Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming out in November this year. For the first time ever, Call of Duty isn't releasing in November, they're releasing in October, because everyone wants to get the fuck out of the way of Rockstar and Red Dead. And that's so cool. Now, obviously, they're the outlier. Not every game can be that big or that good. But I wish more companies would take the approach of, we're going to go away for 2 years, put a big investment into our games and into our technology, and then come out and really hit hard. I can't think of many games that do that don't work out. Obviously, it is a bit more risky if you don't have the capital that Rockstar might have in the bank. But, you know, they weren't always like that. They built up. They had their yearly releases of Vice City, San Andreas, and then they went away. Now they do this like tiered timed releases. So yeah, I just thought it was worth pointing that out. So GTA 5 absolutely killing it, and it's basically known to be the most successful entertainment product of all time, not just game, in terms of monetary revenue. Obviously games like Minecraft and stuff have sold more, and Minecraft then in turn was bought for $2 billion, but that doesn't really count when you're talking about commercial sales and things like that. All right, moving from from one success to another, we're going to have a look at God of War 4. Or just God of War, I guess it's called. So God of War, PS4 exclusive game. I guess this is like our PS4 corner of the show, which we'll probably have a few times, because I'm an avid PlayStation gamer. I mostly just play the exclusives. When exclusive comes to a PlayStation console, I typically try and get it, because they're extremely high quality. Sony have 12 Sony-owned studios, and those studios make games that only go on PlayStation, and I just love them. But eventually, some of them come over to PS Now that you can play on PC, so I think it's still worth kind of mentioning. The reason that God of War is especially worth mentioning, as someone who's not a massive God of War fan, is because this is being received extremely high. So over here on OpenCritic, it's on a 95% based on 67 reviews total. It's in the top 0.1% games of all time on OpenCritic. And it's got 65 reviews. You know, it's not just one or two here or there. It's getting 10s universally, pretty much unanimously. So I'm extremely excited for it. I haven't watched too much of it, but I just thought we'd take a quick look at maybe a piece of the trailer, some of the gameplay here. I don't know how I'm going to feel about the kid. Sometimes I worry that journalists are really into the emotional aspect of some games, but more than maybe they need to be, because they're all about pushing the medium forward all the time and stuff, and that's cool. But for a God of War game, I don't know if that's something I'm going to want. But I mean, there's so many 10s. It's going to be hard to refute. The game looks awesome. So I'm definitely going to get this. You know, I don't have much capital for buying games, but this is one I'm going to try and buy, and then I might even stream it, just because it comes out on April 20th, I think. That's a Friday. I might just stream it for fun and see how it goes, because yeah, I think it looks great. So yeah, that's God of War. It's just, if you got a PS4, this game's absolutely killing it, so you should maybe have a look at it. The very last story then to cover, and this has been a pretty quick Republic of Play news, is the Humble Strategy Bundle is now on Humble Bundle. This is a different kind of think tank. Get your hand in the game with the likes of Tooth and Tail, Endless Legend, and Endless Space 2 Standard Edition. Plus, your purchase will support the whale and dolphin conservation. Not to poo-poo this bundle, but I honestly don't think the games are really that good. Planetary Annihilation is kind of like a meh type of game for me. It's got mostly positive, 79%. Endless Space Collection, that's just Endless Space 1 plus DLCs, and then Dungeons of the Endless. Then they've got Company of Heroes 2, some like skins for tanks. So tier 1 is pretty old games that are, I don't know, not that interesting. Tier 2 gets a little bit better, Endless Legend and Endless Legends DLC, along with Empire Total War, which is a pretty old Total War game now, and one of the, in my opinion, probably one of the worst. But that's kind of a matter of taste, I suppose. But then you can get 66% off of Total War Warhammer. So you haven't yet picked up Warhammer, you get 66% off there. Again, Warhammer was only $12 on Humble Bundle with the Humble Monthly thing once before. So again, I don't know if it's not that good of a deal. However, then you get to pay $12, you get Endless Space 2 and Tooth and Tail. This is pretty good. Endless Space 2 I think is a very good game, and you'll at least get 1 or 2 playthroughs out of it that you will find very enjoyable. I don't think it's personally as open-ended of a sandbox as something, say, Stellaris or something like that, but it's definitely graphically it's very impressive, and the story that they built, like, it has its own pre-baked in lore, and the story is really, really cool. It's definitely worth playing as 1 or 2 of the factions a few times. I only jumped in just to try out the Endless, what was it called? The Vaulters DLC, and that really refreshed the game for me and made it like way more interesting to play. So I think Endless Space is a fantastic game. You should check it out. Tooth and Tail, I'm a little iffy about Tooth and Tail. Total Biscuit's got a very good video up about it. I never ended up making a video on it. It's certainly different, but it's not really, personally, it's just not really for me. Although it's a pretty cool premise. It's basically like creatures eat each other or fight each other to eat each other for food as their resource. So it's kind of cool. And that's pretty much it. Then there's a few extra bonuses and things like that, and of course you're supporting charity, so maybe even if the games aren't too good, if there's 1 or 2 in there that you like, you can just hit that slider all the way for the charity or whatever, and you're doing good. Alright, so that is going to be it for the news show this week. I did want to mention one other thing, and it's going to sound a little salesy or marketing-esque, but that is, I wanted to mention cdkeys.com. You might have seen that I posted about CD Keys, and basically I'm an affiliate of CD Keys now. And CD Keys is a site that I've used for maybe about 3 years. And this is where I tend to buy my new games because I mean, honestly, the deals are just kind of like ridiculous. I don't know how they do it. I have sort of verified that they're, as far as I can, that they're pretty legit. I can't really go into how I've done that, but it could be to do with having ads on the website and things like that, that they're able to discount the games. Again, I don't know. But for instance, you can get Battletech for £25. It's like, I don't know, 30% off. Frostpunk is like 30% off. Thrones is like 20% off. Ancestors Legacy, 20% off. If you use my referral link, that'll be in the description. I get a kickback. It doesn't cost you anything extra. But if you click that link and you go in and then buy whatever you want, I get a little kickback. And a few people have done it already. I haven't heard any complaints or any problems, but I would recommend that you make an account before you do so. So make an account, log in, and that way if you do purchase something, they'll have your purchase history, and if you have a problem, you can talk to support about it, and I'm sure they'd help. It's also good to just look up games. For instance, Stellaris, it's like 40% off. I don't know how they do it, but what I do know, or I'm pretty certain, is that they don't do what G2A do. You get the key from the site. You don't get a key from someone who's selling a key that might not work. That never happens, so don't worry about that kind of thing. Anyway, I didn't really want to get affiliated with anyone, but I actually use CD keys so much, and when they reached out to me, I was like, okay, I actually use this site, and it is really great. So as marketing and salesy as that sounds, it's my honest opinion on it. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the show. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll be back next Thursday with even more Republic of Play news. The stories this week were a little bit light, but I tried to keep it quick, and yeah, next week hopefully we'll have some meatier things to talk about. Let me know what you think of the show in the comments below. This is going to be one more episode before the pilot 4 episodes are done, and any major changes I might need to make, if I am going to make any, I'll do then. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I've had some great feedback so far, and I really do appreciate it. Make sure you hit subscribe if you're unfamiliar with the show. We're live well, we're not live, but it comes out every Thursday. Alright, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Oh god. That was pretty good. Yeah. You'll have an intro this time. That's good, because after last week, I was a little... Yeah, okay. Well, I look forward to it. I can't wait to see it. Okay.